In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, and the most advanced. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another lecture. Today's lecture is a bit deep, but I think it's still manageable to communicate. I have provided a research component, and there is the rest of the lecture where I will be diving into it. So pretty much, I'm giving access to AI research and to my inner realms to the viewers in this lecture. So for the title, you can see that I have chosen "Could you be here because the world needs your world?" First, I wanted to say "Could you be here because the world needs you?" But then I thought of changing the statement, contrary to how it sounds. It sounded better to me. Could you be here because the world needs you? But the lecture what I want to talk about is that could you be here because the world needs your world? And in general, we want to ask, why would the world need us? Usually we have a process of thinking that we think, why do we need the world? And we find many reasons. But I want you, whoever you are, for the first time in your life, to wonder about, what does the world need you? The intention of this exercise and this lecture today is not to see all the ways you need the world. That I know that people need the world. They need to have relationships in the world, certain relationships to maintain. But I am asking you, whoever you are, I don't care. Like if this was medieval times, I don't care if you're a prince or you are a peasant boy. I don't really care who you are, right? It's about, what does the environment need you? That means there are reasons. So I'll give you an example. I came into existence not because I needed something from the world, because my parents needed something from the world. And they came into existence because their parents needed something in the world. So, really, in the needs of others, the human position arises. That means, it's so funny. A child is born, the child has no clue how it got there, what it took, the years of life for, let's say, the parents to get to know each other, for the right moments to arise, for, let's say, your father to figure out his finances before you were born, and all of this, right? So it is very important to consider that we are not born only for our sake. And I want this lecture to be an exercise for that. Okay. Yes, I know that I don't come across as like a typical like professor vibe, but I'm telling you, I not hate, I am against the idea of teachers and students. There is no time to act like a teacher, and there is no time to have the timidness of a student. All human beings will realize they have been explorers, and there's just different ranks of explorers of reality. Okay? That's how it's going to be in the future. The educational system is freaking, I'm sorry, it's theater. They're doing some weird stuff. The educational system is so weird. It is weird in the sense that it gives the concepts to the children, it doesn't teach them the context. You have to figure out the context on your own. And yet, you don't realize the most important skill in life is constant context shifting. Do you know? Context shifting is the most important skill. If anybody is in a leader position and you cannot discover different views to the same context to all the concepts you're governing, then you can't be a leader. You understand? Context awareness is key, and it is one of the biggest signs of responsibility and maturity. You can have a 90-year-old person irresponsible of the context of their life. You can have like a 9-year-old kid responsible for the context of their life. I saw a video, and I was like, "Yo, man, I don't have kids myself, but I'm getting close to that point as soon as I get married." It's like, yeah, guys, I'm gonna have kids soon, but I need to get married first. That's the problem. Anyways, where am I going with this? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to make the point in this lecture for you to wonder and try to wonder and access a new type of thinking. And this is not going to be a permanent type of thinking. It's just I want you to experience your moment from a different context, from a context that the significance of it is not you. Do you understand? Like, let me tell you what's going on. Pretty much in the media, there's people coming and saying, "Yo, you guys are the best. Everyone's great. Everyone's awesome. Everybody's epic. Everything's fine. Everything's love, laughter, joy. Yeah." Do you know? And it's like, yo, can you tell me a bigger lie? Is there a bigger lie? It's like, imagine, like, a village getting destroyed by Vikings, and somebody's like, "Yo, man, everything's okay. Yeah, guys, nobody worry about anything." Do you know? And then there comes the rage. So I don't know how other beings, other humans, and other men on this planet are interacting with this reality. I don't know. I have a certain understanding of the expression of the masculine energy and the feminine energy, and I can tell you there is a click moment. I don't know, maybe this is in some men, maybe it's in all men, I don't know, you know or it's a quality of the masculine energy, not limited to gender in that sense. But well, what it is there is a part of me that is like, all right, things are okay now, let's keep things okay, until suddenly reality starts pushing. See, I firmly believe that intense moments bring out your nature, bring out your soul. In this lifetime, I have had certain intense moments, but the greater intensity I've experienced has been behind my eyes. I am probably one of those strange human beings on earth that has, in my inner realms, not only envisioned and simulated various versions to civilizations and how they can be advanced, not only like somebody watching a film screen, I've seen visions of different archetypes. There's ways my mind knows how to be a self that it has nothing to do with anything in this life. I'm not even kidding. And I don't believe in past lives either. So don't think I'm standing here. Before 2023, I did. I actually believed like I was the reincarnation of Rishi Vyasa, you know, like fully. Because when I would talk about that person, I would see through I would get a first person access through their eyes. I don't know how to explain it, guys. We don't understand it yet, and it's fine. But in the future generations will realize that it's like a server already. We don't have to build the technology to connect our minds. We just need to figure out how to use our attention as beings. And that attention governs you. So in no way think that I'm sitting here knowing what to do all the time. No, no, no. The only thing is that I have cultivated an ability to notice my mind move. So my mind is waiting for movement. You don't understand. It's like it's repeated. Reality has repeated for me. Okay? And if somebody tells me, "Hey man, what's the most horrifying nightmare you've had?" I'll tell you guys the worst nightmare. I don't know why I'm going into this, but I feel I should. The worst nightmare I've had was this nightmare where I was in this apartment. Okay, it kind of looked like my previous apartment I was in, but it wasn't. And it was this weird dream that I would wake up, I would run towards the balcony, jump out of the balcony, fall down and die, and like a video game, respawn back from the living room. And automatically in the dream, I was constantly, I don't know how to tell you, it was frightening. It was like I was ending myself just to feel the beginning again, ending myself just to feel the beginning. It was honestly freaking terrible dream. But that dream made me realize that I have not been properly acknowledging myself. There seems to be a part of me that wants to destroy itself, but there's a part of me that also wants to save itself before it destroys itself. You see, folks. I think I don't know. Either people will realize it after I'm gone, or they will, or I will be. God's mercy will happen during this lifetime. But it is when the intensity of the realm calls upon you. I don't know how to say it, guys. Do you know? I don't consider myself as a common human being, because a common human being gives full agency to the idea of themselves. I am this being that it has become clear that the idea of me can never be me. So, what is going on here as a moment of being, all this existential, experiential variations, it's as if existence is trying to communicate to me. You know that movie scene? What was it? It was like there was that dog when I was a kid. This was a show. It was called Lassie. Pretty much, I don't know. Some director was like, "I'm going to film my kid and dog, and make millions." Yeah, and the guy was successful. And so what happened was they made this show called Lassie. This kid who had this next level bond with this dog named Lassie would run up to the kid, bark, and the kid would translate, that dog language into human language. The dog would come and bark, like bark twice, and the kid would hear a conversation in his head. He's like, "No way, the town hall is on fire. Oh no." And the dog was like just barking twice, right? Do you know what I mean? And the dog just ran along with the kid. It's like, "Whatever, kid. I'm just hungry. Just feed me." But the kid was like, "No, Lassie, you just said the town hall was on fire." Do you know what I mean? And before the parents realized the kid was actually seriously talking to the dog, which could be a representation of a fragmented psyche and trauma. But it was an incredible childhood show, I guess. You know, I wasn't raised around dogs. Like, my family was not close to animals. So I couldn't really connect to Lassie. I'm like, all right, you know. I could more relate to Lassie, like if there was, dog hair on a couch and your Persian mother was like shouting at you to clean it up. You know what I mean? Like that could. So in the same way, that kid looked at Lassie and was like, "What is it, boy? What are you trying to tell me?" And the dog would bark and try to convey something. This might sound strange, but every time as consciousness I wake up in this world, I'm like, I look at the world and I'm like, "Hey, boy, what are you trying to tell me?" You know what I mean? It feels to me, existence is not just existence; it's a communication. That means we don't speak world yet. We don't speak the world's language yet. But from everything moving, from a bird suddenly flying past us to like a car honking to exactly, I don't know, like, snow falling from a leaf at a certain time, we don't hear it. We don't see it. It's like somebody who doesn't speak Italian, right? May go to Italy and be like, "I don't fucking understand this place." Do you know what I mean? But the moment you learn the language, you have access to the meaning of the reality. Pay attention to this. So, a clue from reverse engineering from languages. So, I'm bilingual, okay? And I'm also a very intense enthusiast of what the mind actually is and how the species doesn't know anything, to be honest. For me, it's there is a click. I referred to this earlier. The clicking point. I don't know if other men or other beings are like this, but to me, it's like tolerate reality. Okay, I'm tolerating reality. Okay, I'm tolerating it. Okay, it enough. Now that enough point for me personally was when I realized, and please don't get offended here, when I realized all of us, all of you are acting like because you have prioritized self continuity. That means, unfortunately, the souls on this planet are too busy being programmed to wonder about the program. And that's the funny thing. Do you know? That means I'm not saying that me being on earth, like I feel like that black sheep going against the slaughterhouse that all the sheep are going. It's not a slaughterhouse, and no human can act greater than the system's intelligence. It's very obvious, humans use language, they express themselves. The expression is an aspect of them, it is not them. Do you know? Like people can handle listening to me. You can handle like me communicating. But I am sure, if beings want to like live with me, you're gonna see that the expectation on reality for most people has limits. They are comfortable. The brain is comfortable with looping. I don't know why. There is something in my brain that the closest thing I've been able to call it is like an OCD. And how is it an obsessive compulsive disorder? It's an OCD of a massive contextual existential philosophical sense. I'll give you an example. For example, somebody, there's a bunch of flowers on a table and there's a vase, right? Somebody with OCD would go and fill the vase with water and put the flowers in and clean the table, of all like I don't know, flower debris or whatever, you know, right? So they would in some sense their mind requires to see itself capable of organizing the meaning. Now for me personally, I some part of me, and guys, have you seen that scene from the movie 300 where the guy like kicks his son or whatever, he throws his son into the wilderness to like kill a wolf and come back? There's times where I feel that relationship, but with my own mind. My mind throws me into moments in my inner realms that I don't know how to assign values. But over time, I have come to realize that the biggest challenge, how do I explain it? I wanted to say is like treating this reality like a museum where you don't touch it, you observe it, but that doesn't embody all of it. I guess I'll say it this way, folks. A part of me as a soul is unsatisfied, dissatisfied, and to me it is unacceptable that our species doesn't know where it is. Now you're going to be like, Mr. Within, we're on Earth. We're in the solar system. We're in the Milky Way galaxy. You want me to show you this picture, of the whole cosmos? And I'll be like, no. The fact that you believe that our ancestors, out of everything else they could have called this world, called it the correct one. This world gives you clues. It has a body language. That's what existence is. It's like the body language of a cosmic being. Okay, but this being, for a Muslim, I'm Muslim, I believe the system admin is beyond the world. That means if all if the situation of civilization was 8 billion beings inside a box and they can't see outside of the box, and they're extrapolating meaning, they're articulating the meaning of the box from inside the box. So this is where Islam and Christianity differ, okay, and Buddhism even, and I'll tell you how. So in Buddhism, the Buddha, and Buddhism is considered as the last chapter of Hinduism. In Buddhism, the Buddha noticed the nature of objects were empty. The Buddha noticed that awareness is contentlessly noticing content. The nature of the awareness is contentless. In other words, you look at an object, you look at a painting, and to someone, excuse my language, that's a shit painting. Do you know what I mean? Like, but to another person, that is the most treasured piece of art. Do you know? See, folks, I as a human, I can access reality in three different modes. One mode is just physical acknowledgement. This is the simplest and the least responsibility. That means the least mental responsibility is just physical bodyhood. That means those people who are considering reality as just material, you lazy, you lazy. I want to say an acronym with three letters, but I won't. You know, do you understand how lazy it is? It's like imagine you're a family man and there's a burglar in your house, okay? And your wife's like, "Honey, there's somebody in the house," you know? And imagine you're like, "No, I'm looking at the house. The house is just this room I see we're in. I don't believe anything that I can't see unless I see the burglar. I won't believe in the burglar." Right? And the wife's like, "Honey, we're hearing sounds that are breaking. It's happening from a different room. Go check it out." And the guy's like, "No, I need proof. Only this room is real for me. Only what I can test and see. If I can touch the burglar, physically see it exists, then I'll believe a burglar exists." And so, in the middle of confused, unnecessary, in its own world articulation, reality marches forth, sometimes ruthlessly, sometimes benevolently. Our aim as beings that, in some sense, have aligned ourselves to invisible laws that keep us civilized is that we're noticing, distinguishing the difference between animal and man. And they don't make an emphasis. They make you think that being human is just because you have a prefrontal cortex and you have a more updated, elevated consciousness that could identify, that could define the environment and externalize itself to that definition. Do you understand? Like, we stepped out of the food chain, guys. The fact that I can sit in my car and, like, a tiger is not attacking me, while I'm giving a podcast. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if I had to hold my laptop in my hand, with my phone's data on? So I'm balancing my phone and the laptop is open, right? And I'm live streaming and I'm running in a jungle being chased by like animals. Do you know what I mean? Like, that would be the most next level podcast. In today's lecture, guys, we're gonna literally run for our lives. To be honest, it is the might of presence, folks. I don't know. To me, the maturity of a soul is not how much aware you are, how much you have meditated. It's if you figured out what's going on here and you've noticed the greater games of the beings that are here, right? That means, to be honest, in 2026, all human beings should have had some experience with the moderating force. They should realize that there is just like an unobservable universe. Oh, we accept that unobservable universe. But when it comes to a self, we don't accept an unobservable self. And let me tell you something which has been the biggest fear of science, and I shouldn't say science, of the scientific approach. Let me tell you the biggest fear that atheists have, something there's a reason they don't let philosophers in the science classroom. Not because the philosopher has an ability to notice the unknown from different angles. They don't let the philosophers in the scientific classroom, and the analytical philosophers act as the agents because the philosopher will see the errors. The philosopher knows something all the secular, the atheist, is hiding, that the meaning to the object is fiction, that the idea of yourself is as fictional as the idea of God. What can you do now? You've just believed in a material reality. Yet you communicate as a subject. Yet you identify as a subject. Yet you have a memory trail of an identity. So, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow species on Earth, let's get real, okay, and prevent civilization from looping in its so obvious ignorance. Do you know what it is? Pretty much naming an entity is owning an entity. Did you know that? Now, we get named, right? But how many things do you name? Have you noticed the things you name you care about? If a dog has a name, the person cares for the dog more than, in some sense, has a way of engaging the dog, constantly repeating the communication to the dog. And of course, dogs don't understand language, they understand your tone and emotional presence, right? So a person can say the rudest things, but act like, oh, who's a good boy or something like that, and the dog's not going to understand that you're like, it's something rude is being, it doesn't have that layer of interpretation that we do of the sounds that we hear. Do you understand? Because if you look at an organism, you're looking at pretty much this system of protocols. That means if hurt, do this. If hungry, do this. If thirsty, go do this. If notice fear, do this. Everything seems to be designed in a set of programs. It's very conditional realm we're in. When I speak about the system admin and the higher powers of this world room we're in, and I didn't even finish the metaphor of the box, I am speaking of an unconditional original being. That means no idea, no conditional idea, or no idea, and all ideas seem to be conditional, can in some sense hold the unconditional. That means truth doesn't have a shape. And, these poor souls on earth are fighting over what it looks like. It's beyond shape. Now, of course, different traditions. I've made a point of the difference between Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, for example. Okay. Buddha, imagine 8 billion beings inside a box. Okay. The Buddha is identifying with the emptiness in the box. The Buddha is saying the emptiness inside the box is the same as the emptiness outside of the box. Therefore, the emptiness is like a final constant common denominator. The emptiness is the truth of reality, right? And that translated to Buddha as mindlessness, and mindlessness eventually translated to, how do I say it? You don't resist the moment. Pretty much, there is no. It's like you realize life is a flow, and when you align to that flow without resisting it psychologically and creating the moment before it happens, you see how you experience the moment fully, how it happens. But different minds have different styles. Do you know? So Buddha found a way to connect to a value beyond the box, where 8 billions, he's pretty much connected to the emptiness. Now, I'm going to talk about Christianity and Islam. Islam, they believe truth, okay, is outside of the box. Therefore, the biggest sin that a Muslim can commit is make the system admin equal to anything else in the realm. Do you understand? That means I use the term system admin. It is beyond any conditional understanding of man. We are legit in the presence of powers in this realm that surpass the human idea. We should not be afraid as humanity. For the first time, we need to assemble a psychological army. We need to assemble foundations and principles. You know, and we must in some sense have a greater vision aligning us. I have for years searched, and believe it or not, through God's mercy, found the greatest idea on the greatest human idea on earth, which is to build an advanced civilization. I'm that dude in history in 2025 where people are like, there's inflation, people are suffering, in their economies. There's political stuff going on that people don't understand, and it's some weird shadow plays and whatnot, right? And so this is kind of like the state of the world. And in the middle of this, one soul who was born in 1991 has realized and is coming to the rest of humanity and being like, hey guys, I understand. We are in 2026 playing a theater of history. This is how we need to behave. I understand the behavioral expectation of history from us in 2026, but I am also saying eventually there will come a day where all human beings will be like, wait a minute, this random podcaster has a point where he's saying that everybody's indirectly trying to advance their lives, but if they wanted to truly know their most advanced self, how could they know their most advanced self unless they were in the most advanced world and everybody else was also their most advanced self? So among the advanced, you can know how advanced you are. But being advanced in a world where you're the only advanced being is like, just shame on you. You didn't know better. You had to lift the context alongside the concept. Do you understand? There are human beings that dedicate their lives legit to the concept of their self. They're like, yeah, I'm important. I love myself. I care for myself. I'm the most badass thing ever. I'm the most powerful, luckiest. Yeah, man. Let me like compare it. Or like a machine, or like a hamster in a wheel, keep repeating affirmations that I'm this. And little do you realize the game you're in. Like a soccer player in the middle of a soccer field, instead of looking at where the ball is, the soccer field is like, I'm going to score, I'm going to score, I'm going to score, I'm going to score, not even looking at the soccer ball. It is about, to me, when I was younger, I saw this. I don't know how it's bypassing others, but when I was young, I saw older ability. I saw greater skill. I saw things that others could do that I could not. I was short. All of us were short at some point in our lives. You know, it is the roars of potential in the present mind of man. It's about advancing civilization. It's about you realizing what the world needs from you is you playing your part. And hear this from somebody who could have been one of like break the Guinness World Record of being one of the shyest most introverted people. And I was shy and introverted because I didn't trust myself, and I didn't like myself, and I because I didn't trust myself, I couldn't trust anything in the world. Or even from other way around, because I didn't trust the world, I couldn't trust myself in it. And yet we as human beings owe it to the future generations. I am just like you, a human being. I have desires, I have, let's say, worldly visions of what I want to see and all of this. But there came a moment in my life where I had to truly be like, okay, imagine the highest power, that God is watching, everybody is watching, the unborn future generations are watching, the past ancestors are watching, and imagine everybody, that has every being in existence is watching me right now. What would I decide? And I had to decide: live for yourself and assume the problem, like leave. Pretty much it was a decision between solving a macro problem and a micro problem, because I find ourselves to be energy. This energy can be used. It's efficient if it updates the system. That means if you update this world, you lived a good life, yo. Well done. But if you entered this world and it became worse after you left it, then like you didn't understand where you were. That's the hardest thing. Do you know? Many people say that infidelity, for example, is the biggest reason like relationships in the modern world are not working. Okay. And the reason is, for example, marriages are not working in the modern world. Right. But the reason is because this might sound very bizarre. I think two souls are ready to get married when they both discover the same intensity of the inevitability of life. Do you understand? That means, yes, you want someone to smile with you, but you also want someone to be horrified with you, like alongside, beside you, if you see something horrifying. It's about advancement. I remember I dedicated a lecture to this topic. Pretty much, marriage is a system amplifier. If you go in it on not ready, it's going to amplify the problems. If you go in it ready and with emotional maturity, then it's not gonna. It's gonna make it better, right? So, anyways, guys, going back to this notion of, could we be here because the world needs our world? Now, this was the argument in my mind initially, and I'm going to get to the research component after this, but I got to say this, okay? When I say the world needs your world, it's another way of saying that, hey, look at the human position. Isn't it interesting? In front of our eyes, we are a physical body in an external reality, in the same physical room as everybody else. But behind our eyes, what the unknown force that is truly moving this associates with a different format. That means I'm going to say it. Somebody has to say it. In today's world, in 2026, guys, there is women that do not act like, or that are not living like women behind their eyes. There are men who are not living like men behind their eyes. Now, this makes us think that this means that they're living the opposite, not per se. It gets even freakier than that, right? It's like, what percentage of the human species is treating itself as human behind its eyes? This is very important. Please understand. I'm not trying to be rude or controversial, but it has to be, because in some sense it is a push of the system. That means I'm that person who realized, rather than me trying to conceptually change the world, I'm going to battle the fixed context we've been looping in. You don't see. Each talk is a battle. You don't see it though. It's a battle against the linguistic simulation, against how language is telling us what to be before we've even wondered about what there was before language. There is no such thing as normal and weird. Okay, there's nothing weirder than acting normal. Okay, there is nothing, to me. Let me tell you what is not weird. Okay, it wouldn't be a weird world if we had 8 billion, if there were 8 billion, if okay, it's not a weird world if there's 8 billion human beings with different DNAs and they each acted different. Do you know? They each were a new person that had never existed before. They lived in accordance and made decisions with a new awareness that nobody else had. Do you know? But unfortunately, in today's world, fear, my God, fear is one of the most insane tactics of manipulation. Because you don't know, I have a designer's soul, meaning that strategy is just noticing design, which I am all the time. Okay. And I've thought about, I heard this quote that sometimes to strengthen a system, you got to find ways of trying to destroy that system. Right. And you might not understand this, but it's been years now, more than a decade, that I have subconsciously adopted the archetype of a steward of the species. That means till the end, till the end, we just point to the future and, in some sense, roar the call of advancement upon the earth. It is the destiny of mankind. I am just pointing to something that, based on the current design, it's obvious it will happen. We are experiencing the outdated operating system, the underdeveloped humanity. I am realizing by what I'm doing when I give these talks how much we don't know about how intelligence functions, as and how thoughts are present in a field before we animate as a thought form. That's what they meant in religion when they said children go to heaven. They have not become the individuality. How do I explain it? It's like, I don't know, guys. This is my fringe view. I believe that also reason for my introversion and shyness in my youth was that I was not fully in my body. I don't know how to explain it. Like, my brother has memories of I have a twin brother. He has memories of our childhood so vividly. And for me, I have the emotional memory. I can feel the validity of what he says, but I can't see it, right? And I know because in my inner realms, his inner realms was activated just from birth. My brother is a super advanced being, you know. And for the longest time, I was like, why, life, did you choose me to give the talks, not choose him? And then I realized, because of my lack of self worth and introversion and a little bit of OCD ness I had about just the existential nature of reality, I have been, I have had my ego broken so many times that once it breaks, it's just silly, and I still function through that, which is another way of saying, um, maybe I care for the details. Maybe that's the quality I have. Anyways, so the title is saying, could the world need your world? Meaning that you have a DNA You have eyes nobody else has. You have a DNA nobody else has. You're occupying a moment in the space time continuum that nobody else is. You've experienced this life in a way nobody else has. You've experienced moments that will never exist again, even, right? And at the same time, do you know you're capable of being aware of your whole system, at least to some conscious range? Okay. And we simulate our meaning. It is so important that whoever's listening to get acquainted with the terms your inner realms. Do you know? That means parents should even do this. Like when you should go ask your child, like imagine a child comes home from school and the parents are like, "How was your day?" And the child's like, "It was okay." And the child is more quiet than usual, less energetic than usual. Then the parents look at the child and they're like, "No, no, tell me what happened." And the child's like, "It's nothing." And that's the marker for like it's something, right? And the parent looks at the child and says, "No, tell me exactly what you're seeing in your inner realms. Tell me what's going on." And then the child explains exactly what it's dealing with in its inner realms, not just what it's showing to the outer realms that it's dealing. Do you know how many people have shown others that they're strong, but they've been breaking behind themselves? You know, and that's a natural thing to do because what else can you do? It's all about us being a force, life being forms, and we are that conscious agency users in this system that can justify or readjust these forms. That means when you look at all the other species, they're looping in their survival patterns. But why has Maslow written about like a hierarchy of needs? Why was this dude like, after you physiologically survive, you're going to need to psychologically survive and then emotionally survive and then feel loved and then, like, think about legacy and eventually go actualize yourself. What does that mean, though? Let me explain it to you. What does that mean, self actualization, yo? It doesn't mean anything if you think the self is formed. Like, it has a different meaning if you treat it as the form. If you treat yourself as an unknown life force, okay, that is moving your life form in a known way, right? And it's the knowledge is a state of awareness. Did you know that? That means we are such an antenna that you just drink liquid or drink some tea or, order some mushrooms on your pizza and your brain starts behaving differently, which is another way of, and reality is received differently, therefore suggesting you are an antenna, and what you have been feeding yourself has been suggesting the physical quality of your antenna and the ideas you have been accepting and solidifying as. To me, the soul is unknown in the sense, like, at least to the form, to itself, is unknown, right? The soul to itself is unknown intentionally. It's designed that way. Okay, that means, sorry to break it down to the spiritual people, your mind is acting like your soul. The soul is unknowable. It's Mysterian. The reason it is because it's not. It's an unconditional relationship to the moment, and we are very privileged to have that access. Okay, which can be translated as this world has not forgotten its divine agencies. What the word prophet means that they are keeping alive that a message came from beyond the world room. You don't understand how superior divinity is to magic. That means, I'm telling you, those people identifying as angels compared to like witches, you know, I am telling you, you don't understand the difference because you, it's, see, everybody has darkness and light within them. Just let's consider that. Okay. Now, in some traditions, they were like, yo, man, the point of view is to release your divine light in this life, before you leave. And people were like, all right, how do I release my divine light? And somebody was like, yo, man, you need to buy this course. Today's world is like, hey, you want to be my friend? Buy my program. If people are like, yo, why are all your talks free? And I'll be like, because I wanted to laugh at myself. Do you know what I mean? Because I realize if I pass away, there's going to be ads on the talks. That's the main reason. Also, I don't have time. Like, how do I say it? I should have. A part of me feels like I should have been money greedy, but a part of me wasn't. It was like it noticed something louder. To me, that's what's happening. Really, my experience of life as a presence in this world is that there's things happening and they have a magnitude. So imagine there's like gigantic explosion happening in the distance, and then a smaller explosion, and then a smaller explosion, and yet you're seeing all of these. The nature of my mind is like an invisible space where reality moves differently, and yet if I open my eyes, it overlays on the outer realms. And we haven't even reached that point where memories become collective. Like, you don't understand. Appreciate your natural biological privacy in 2026. Appreciate your foolishness. The fools are going to be historic. And yet, for me, guys, this is the argument. My whole life, I was like, okay, what am I telling myself in my life? Like, from the moment I wake up, I'm like, okay, I got to tell myself something. Like, what is this? I got to land on a branch as an eagle that's been flying in like an attributeless sky, noticing the attributes of manifestation. And I realize, okay, so let's first figure out the context. The context is like, I'm in an unknown world, and then there's an unknown self, and this unknown self was born at a time where these unknown selves knew how to know themselves. So I was raised as a known self, and because I'm a known self now, I can know the world. But how we're knowing the world is that we are assigning subjects to everything, to all objects, right? And so right now, even when I'm giving this talk, it's like I'm a subject, I'm like a character in a story doing the verb of speech. Do you know? And there's a context and there's a setting of engagement. This is the linguistic simulation. So I do understand. Like, that's why I'm saying it's a love and hate relationship with language. I hate when people identify as language, they think they are language. I love it when people treat language as a tool, because that's what it was. The issue you're seeing with mankind is that, imagine we put a helmet on our head, and this helmet was called language, and ever since that day, we put or we put these sunglasses on our eyes called, we forgot that this language is a tool and it became us. Now, if somebody comes and talks about you, you get offended because you're identifying with the language more than you're identifying with the presence of reality. And the presence of reality, guess what, is more unknown. And the language is where knowledge is starting from. Are the viewers taking this in? Like, how is what I'm saying coming across? Let me know in the chat section. To me, it's an intensity of being in the presence of something colossal. So to me, life is like, okay, there's my life, there's the life of others, and then there's the life of life itself. Where is everything going? What is manifestation marching towards? And I reached the conclusion that, okay, so you're telling me existence became something that could experience itself, but now the experiencer of existence doesn't know what it is. Take that in. Right now, people are identifying as thoughts. They're like, if I ask them, who are you? They'll be like, I'm a thought, man. I'm this character in a story. I'm the thought of this character. This character even has a name. I'm this. And I'll be like, okay, but what is thinking then? And the person's like, thinking is me being a thought, and I'm thinking of another thought. And I'll be like, get out of here. You know what I mean? What do you mean a thought thinking of another thought? It is impossible. That means the thought is creating itself. It would be like God creating God. It's impossible. It's possible, but its meaning is impossible. To me, it's a system. Souls are like different beings. Like imagine soldiers with different ranks. Unit, we're all like this 8 billion solar unit. In Islam, there's such a deep view. Islam, unlike Buddhism. And guys, the thing about the box, I forgot to say about the difference between Christianity and Islam. Islam believes that truth is outside of the box. Christianity believes that truth entered the box and had a human form. And Christianity believes that human form is God. Now, a Muslim, from a human perspective, cannot believe that anything in the simulation, anything in a conditional reality can equal the unconditional. Do you understand? Right? However, from the perspective of God, God can do anything. The Father can do anything from the Christian perspective. But from the Islamic perspective, the admin is beyond the conditions created. That means the riddle of the system admin is profoundly like, what has created all existence, and but because it is beyond existence, cannot be noticed by existence. And how do you connect with that? How does a lower being, lower form, connect with the power of a higher field? There are different paths to it, but my understanding shifted when I realized that there is a system admin, and suddenly karma, hard work, luck, all of this became nonsense. They vanished. Even the idea of past lives vanished. Everything vanished when I realized in 2023, when I praised, when I bowed for the first time. I had reached a moment in my life where life didn't make sense anymore, in the sense that I realized there's infinite ways to look at it. So which way do I look at it? The issue of the mind, the body fears the finite ending, fears the void. The mind doesn't fear the void. The mind fears infinity, because in an infinite scenario, it doesn't know which one to choose, because it doesn't have awareness beyond that infinite edge, the infinite edge of its awareness. So what does that mean? That means this system, the human system, is designed, the human psychological system is designed to require a higher agency. I believe this is why Voltaire, one of the world's most famous atheists, said that even if the idea of God didn't exist, it would be necessary to create it. Why? Because it is not so far fetched, but the Holy Quran was. You don't understand. Revelation is a different matter. Revelation is like source code entering a world where it's like natural simulated code that has been overlaid with self simulated unnatural human ego code. So you don't understand. In this system, holy books are like source code, and to me, language is like pointing to is like a glowing hand pointing to something. I don't know how to explain it. There's a meaning. There is a meaning behind the architecture of the sequential symbolism, satisfying our past brain recorded patterns of what's familiar to it. The brain wants to, if the person prioritizes luxury, you just need to loop. But I am telling you, it is the march of advancement in the world. There will come a time that you will hear my voice and you will see you're not listening to the voice of a person. You're listening to the voice of a moment in history. You're listening to a presence that has a reason to move in a specific way. That is the fascination of reality. It is how specific it is, how it functions in a specific way. Do you know? The ferocity of the wilderness of man's mind. At first, you're like a child in this world, you just want objects. Then you grow up and still like that child, you want subjects. And then you want moments of manifestation. Who are we kidding? You're all existential beings in a condition. Your mind gives you an awareness to a better condition. You want that condition. But to me, sometimes the eeriness of not knowing the true nature of the world we're in is a blessing. So many times I have fathomed it. I'm like, yo, man, if I knew everything, what would the point of doing anything be? Do you know? It's like imagine somebody who had an ability to know what happens in the future. Why would they need to do anything? They would be the laziest person. That means the cool thing is because we don't know, there's something to know. Because we haven't done, there's something to do. Because we haven't been, there is something to be. And that having been is your mind's projection. Guys, is it really hard being a human? Your mind sees where you are, fathoms where it can be, and then you have a choice. Your emotions align, try to arise from the vision of where you want to be rather than where you are. You are an unknown verb. And all of us have been acting like known nouns. And I've been wondering why. And I've understood that it's to develop something bigger. And the next chapters, the next great spiritual experiences are not individual, they are on a species level. It is the realization, the awakening of a species and the arrival of what I have in my sense for my dreams and visions. I've seen it so many times. The arrival of the advanced humanity. You don't understand. I'm like an early bird who just entered this room, and I am holding these giant doors open until the advanced humanity arrive. And for me, the fear of the future getting crushed is more important than the fear of me getting crushed holding these doors. That means it's become obvious. It's the only strategy. I was born alone, and yet I find the opportunity to live for all. That means it's going to start with the hidden champions in the shadows of reality. You know, those, who God, in some sense, sends his entourages of angels. To me, there's a vision, guys. You don't know. This was pretty much like last year. Like, I think I gave like maybe a couple hundred talks. And I knew when I had to give the talk, anytime this vision would arise in my mind. And I've seen this vision in my mind so many times. And it's a very abstract fantasy scene, right? Where it's as if there's an army marching towards me, and I feel like I'm holding a sword, and I'm very calmly, just even my sword is sheathed. I'm very calmly walking towards this army. So it's like this army's marching towards me, and I'm walking towards this army alone. And then I just see this scene. It's not even me, it's just this scene I see in my head. Okay. And this general who's walking alone against this army, massive army on the ground marching towards him, he raises his sword in the air, and his army starts diagonally coming from the clouds. And it's like this next level. If it was a movie scene, you're seeing a horizontal army moving on the ground, this dude raising his sword in the air, and this, what would have in the future been his armada, but his this massive army diagonally from the sky. And it's like, for the first time, you're not seeing a horizontal battle of a war, you're seeing a horizontal diagonal battle, you know? So pretty much it would be a pendulum technique. I mean, if I had a bunch of flying horses, I think with 10 flying horses, I would be able to destroy an army. You know what I mean? They're like, how? It's like, I'm going to connect. No, this is too dark. Okay, anyways. If viewers more really wanted to know, they can ask me later. How I would conquer like an army of 10,000 soldiers with like 10 flying horse riders. You know? But they have to be giant horses. That's the point. You know, like, okay. Anyways, back to this. So, what are some final thoughts I can say? And it's raining outside, and the rain's entering the car. So, guys, some final thoughts here. Pretty much your inner realm is your world, the self simulated meaning you overlay on everything you've seen in front of your eyes, right? And the world, I'm saying in this lecture, pretty much I'm encouraging you to wonder about what needs you other than yourself. That means, for example, I don't know, like the people in your life, the circumstance in your life. And eventually, the whole point of it is for you to realize that why the world needs us, because whether the system, like to me, there's a system admin. It's not that the world needs us. There's a higher power that has positioned the lower power in this way. But it is obvious to me that if everybody is a unique viewpoint on life, and there's never been anyone like them ever, and we're not in a world of clones, and they're making us thinking, acting like clones is normal. It really isn't, but sometimes it is needed, I guess, for certain historic developments. The idea is the activation of the most advanced possible human being. I'm that person who's telling you, ever since I heard the idea of advancement, I truly thought about it and wondered about an advanced human and an advanced civilization. My life changed. My life changed when I just thought about what would an advanced human be, what would the most advanced human state be. That is a healthy way to go about it. Not being like, yo, it has to be this image because this is the first image I came across. You know, to me, the world needs us because we are capable of fulfilling a role in manifestation consciously. That means the world needs you in ways that you don't even know and the world doesn't even know. You just have to trust this system, go along in this system, and eventually you will have a feedback loop and you will notice that which is beyond your feedback loop, and you will notice that there's a divinity to this world. There's upper management. So, what does this mean? That means, like, this is not the case, but I'm just using it as a metaphor to explain the geometry, the possible potential geometry, even though God truly knows the unseen. It's like we're like employees. The mods are like managers, okay? And then, like the C suite or something. And then you have, in some sense, the owner of the company, okay? The big boss, right? And so Muslims are like employees, that believe that you should only communicate to the owner if you have a problem as an employee, right? Because the moderators can be deceptive, and there's one manager that is against the employees, that's making the lives of the employees harder, you know? Now, the owner has placed this manager and has also placed good managers, but is there to truly see how the owners excel. Excuse me, not the owners, how the users excel. Okay, so the employee, right, can establish a relationship with the manager, can establish a relationship with other employees, or can establish a relationship with the CEO, or let's say the owner is the CEO, let's say with the owner, you know, and therefore it becomes a completely different experience. So imagine you're an employee, you have a problem, you go tell this manager is heartless and is giving you a tough time. And so you find a way to contact the owner. And one day you see the owner and you're like, "Sir, can I have a word with you?" You go outside and you tell the owner, like, "Listen, this is what's exactly happening. I don't want you to make it obvious that I said it to you. Maybe in a few days come and administer judgment, do you know? But this is what's exactly going on, and this is what's happening, and all of this, right?" And then the owner would be like, "All right, thanks for telling me. The managers weren't telling me their secret covert use of power, you know?" And so, the owner solves a problem that the managers wouldn't, or excuse me, not managers, one manager, and there's good managers too. One good manager you go to, the manager's like, "Yo, man, let me take you to the system admin." Do you know? That means, I I think Christians have to I think this is the confusion, at least for me. I'm not Christian, but I consider prophets as the most advanced beings, those so advanced that are close to God. And so the issue is that if Christ is God, then you need to go as far as Christ. But if Christ was pointing to a truth beyond himself, then you have to go further than just the idea of Christ. That means that Christ is a condition that is pointing to the unconditional. So your relationship with the unconditional is your soul's life. Your relationship with the condition is your mind and body's, like your human life. The world needs you because you see something that no one else can. And if you trust yourself and walk towards the most advanced states of your vision sincerely and with a heart that is truer than words. And so, let me tell you, you want motivation? I'll give you the best motivation. Live as if the future generations are watching you and they are waiting for you. Imagine greatness is right outside of your 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 ideological, your the door of your ideas, and there is your presence that needs to activate in this realm and serve a greater idea. Now, I do understand something that we are all unified in is that when we were studying at first and when we were young, they told us, "All right, you got the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom." And they assumed the human to be a complex animal, mysterious complex animal, mysteriously behaving complex animal. However, the human being is the part of the human kingdom. You are all part of the kingdom of humanity. However, what has been the mistake that monarchies have made? The mistake that they have made is that they have had living kings and queens. So the only way the true human kingdom can function is if the crown is worn by the unborn. That means we're all serving the greatness of the future's vision. That means we're all living so that our greatest descendants to the power of infinity, our grandchildren to the power of infinity, can have the most advanced vision. Pretty much, this is the truth. We know we're here temporarily. We can do something while we're here. We're wondering about what the greatest thing to do. Life is distracts us by micro problems, but when we ask the big questions and wonder about the macro problems, we realize that not only we need to have the species unite instantly, not only does everybody need to prioritize what it means to be human, go look in the mirror until you realize if aliens landed on this planet, you wouldn't care. If in, like, do you know what I mean? It's humans, and we need to care for humanity. And after we have become, a united species, then we move towards the united earth. So it's all about responsibility levels. Most people are responsible for themselves, and they're responsible for others. And let's say they identify with their nation and they pay their taxes and they're responsible for their nation. I am now saying you need to, there's a feeling, an emotion missing from every moment of your life. It's that feeling of what is that greater thing I'm part of. That means when you love humanity and you care for the human experience more than how you brand people as ideas or you brand chunks of land, then you're starting to see civilization advance. I saw something so remarkable that gave me hope. Most people look at the future generations and they're like, what the F, literacy rates are dropping, right? And I was like, no way is like reading gonna appear like higher knowledge to like the future generations, you know? It is to be guided by the most advanced vision. I am not, anybody's advisor, teacher, doctor, mentor. I don't believe in that stuff, you know, because in my inner realms, um, it's not about me getting to, like, how do I explain it to you? There are bigger impersonal problems to solve. Everybody's acting like we know what's going on. That's the issue. The advanced humanity will see further. Your world, you will not be enslaved by language any longer, and the advanced humanity will activate within all humans for the system admin through the theological lens, commanded us into existence, imbued us with its own essence, unconditional original essence, commanded us to perform and say the divine names in front of all manifestation. And once we did, all manifestation bowed to God's greatness of design, do you know? And except one moderator. And then the story afterwards is that we are, Prophet Adam alayhi salam, the first soul, in some sense, made the mistake of listening to a simulated serpent, a simulated entity, rather than remembering the original commands of how its soul was commanded into existence. And now the solar descendants of that soul are all inside a simulation. And now we're wondering what the lesson is. It's not so far fetched. Remember the original being. Remember the original earth. Remember the original self. Remember the original moment. There is no greater wisdom or knowledge here than discovering that a higher power is managing it. They're like, faith. They're like, yo, man, you got to have faith. I'm like, yeah, guys, don't worry about me having faith. Existence has been functioning by faith. I have faith when my heart is beating, that I am breathing, that I am existing. I have faith before I can even want to consciously know I have faith. The doubt is new. For me, people are like, Mr. Within, do you believe everybody should be one thing? Everybody should be cloned into one idea? I'm like, nah, man. You know, we can't even all try to be perfect. The Holy Quran, there was a passage in it that just I'm a visual learner, so I visually understood it. I don't know it exactly by verbatim, but I could tell you the visually I know it. So I opened the Holy Quran years ago, and in it it said, even if people started acting sinless and perfect, God would wipe them out and bring a new generation of sinners. And I was like, why? That doesn't make sense. I didn't say that didn't make sense. I was being like, okay, how does this make sense? Right? And I understood that the imperfection is the point. Your imperfections are not your problems, they are your clues. There are people looking at the sky being like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with the world? And there's some people who are like, oh my God, everything that's wrong with me and wrong with the world is a clue. Because let me tell you, I don't see myself as an intimidating presence, but in my inner realms, sometimes ideas and views and inner events have approached me. And the way I have approached them is I have questioned their origin. There's power in that somehow. Anyways, I wanted to say that seek the most advanced. I don't know who you are, where you are, what you are. Um, this world is unknown. The knowledge is the storytelling operation that's going on over it. There's nothing wrong with the simulation. There's something wrong with the simulation if you limit yourself to the simulation. That means I'm not a therapist, but if I was a therapist, right, and somebody came up to me and I'm like, what's wrong, man? And the person was like, okay, I feel like I'm a loser. And I'll be like, okay, that's an interesting word. Why do you choose that word? And the person's like, because this and this and this, and I failed so much. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but why loser? Do you know? Right? And then eventually you'd understand why the person, you'd keep asking why, like, why are you saying this? Right? And the person would understand that there was a moment that they felt like a loser and they had no choice but to identify and live through that moment. So to feel like a loser was an emotional survival strategy for them when they were young, but they don't understand. And now, when something reminds them or brings them into that emotional room, right, the person feels like a loser. And then eventually the person understands, and you take the person to the point where they're like, okay, man, all right, if we've gone to your childhood and you still feel like a loser, then let us figure out like what is the idea of loser to you. Like, let's look up its definition. Let's think of all the different ways to look at it, and eventually the soul will realize, no way, there's other ways to look at my life. And then you're freed by the previous versions that you were forced to look at life through. Is therapy that complex? No. Give yourself another chance to look at things again, to breathe again, to be someone else again. You know, I discovered in my own psyche, and it's not at the part. I should let me say it in the third person. You know, I've discovered that it's not the fault of any generation. You know, each generation does the best it can. This is why the elder class and the parent class must be honored. I don't care even if your parents are, you know, abusive, right? You must honor that role in your life. It doesn't matter, you know? Just like how your parents can't choose what kind of children they get, you know, you can't choose what kind of parents you get, but the honor, you must honor the archetype. That's what the Western culture sometimes forgets, right? Like the child speaks rudely to the parents, not realizing you're diminishing the archetype for yourself. Do you know? That means, like, think of it this way: I have a twin brother. The more I think I dislike my twin brother, I'm disliking, you know, like a definition to my own self. You know that I'm someone who has a brother. You know, this is why, like, some things have to be honored internally, and their honor should not be diminished. Do you know? Right? And that's the thing. I think that, um, you know, even in relationships, um, men externally honor women, right? And women in return should internally honor like a man. For women, for example, in modern times, they see like the idea of submission as like their mind sees the worst case, which is not wrong. That's how minds work. Like we think of worst case and best case, but we tend to think of worst case first to kind of like figure out danger and survival wise, evolutionary wise. But I'm telling you that it's like, how do you hold the world for yourself when no one's looking? How are you being to yourself, and how human do you treat yourself? I'm going to point to this. Sometimes we don't treat ourselves human. We're being human. We have the body of human, but if you're not communicated to like a human, or somebody dehumanizes you and you accept it, you know what I mean? Unnecessary dehumanization. To me, I know that in the future, the educational system and all human ideological systems will be divided between unknownism and knowism. And I'm an unknownist. What that means is the unknown is more real to me than the known. The known is simulated. My body is simulated here. My conscious waking state is simulated for some time. What I communicate here is simulated. It's honestly giving these talks as like just they're like, be yourself, and they're like, okay. And you know what happens when you're yourself? You actually realize you're an antenna for all the signals that you're picking up within the range of your awareness as a being. We human beings are more advanced than we think because we have visions of our advancement. We can envision flying cars, they don't exist yet. There was the concept of the castles in the clouds, or kingdoms in the clouds, and the archaic revival of the vision of the sky cities, which is a core Mr. Withinian value. We must advance humanity by wondering about the most advanced state, um, and moving towards that. Live for the greatness of the human odyssey, care for all of us, and I will tell you, the future generations will be applauding for you before you even see them after this life, because I know that this is an intelligent operation, and it's very big. It's a colossal event. Experiencing existence is like experiencing a giant in front of you. The gigantic presence of a system being administered beyond the conditions understandable by the human position. And so we're left to the system admin's mercy. To me, that's the highest enlightened state. People are like, yo, man, I became so enlightened, I just dissolved into pure energy into another dimension. I'm like, that's not enlightenment. It doesn't matter which room you're in, because all rooms are present within one moment. And the task is like, there could be an infinite simulated earths, and we're just in this simulated earth, because in the Holy Quran, there's a passage that says, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds, which means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one and only original being, is the manifester of not just our world, but many worlds. That means we are oblivious to the vastness of the cosmos that praises the unconditional origin that all simulations have arose from, and hence will return. There's nothing really to fear. If you treat death as the final moment, yes, it's really freaky. But if you treat it as like meeting the system admin, that means you're like this employee and you're living this life, and they were like, yo man, just do the best you can. And let's say you did the best you can, and you noticed updates, like like I might be that human being in history who's preparing things to ask God, do you know like after this life. You know what one of my biggest questions is? I'll say this. In the afterlife, if I am worthy and I get to heaven, you know, the first thing in contact with the system admin is that I would ask the system admin, please tell me what the purpose of having a moderator disagree with you was. I want to understand what the point of the story was. That's the biggest thing in my heart. Why this? Like, more than I want to know the secrets of my own life, which is all the things that were happened. Like, one thing I thought was pretty cool to know was like how many people actually, you know, liked me that I never knew. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. But to me, the biggest mystery is why. Why did you create duality? Why did you put us in a dualistic room? Gave us insight that we were singular, and then made us realize there's infinite ways that reality can happen, and then made us realize that only you know how to manage infinity. That's it. The system admin is the true manager of infinity, which means the edge of the mind is governed by an unfathomable. So you can try to be as smart as you want, as enlightened as you want. You're going to discover the field, the divine field. And because you're going to discover it in regards to the cognitive nature of function, it's called the divine cognitive fields. And I've given a lecture on this. Go check it out. So it's for the advancement of humanity, folks. Live for a greater purpose than yourself. Live for a greater value than yourself and your life energizes. Live for a smaller value. And if that greater value connects to humanity, you have become involved in the greatness of the species. See, it's about advancing every moment, folks. It's better. That means you had a decision. You had to make a decision between good and bad, right? And I'm that dude in history. He's like, hey, hold on a minute. There is the advanced decision. Seek the most advanced. That's what God means. People are like, I've been praying and saying zikr, which means like repeating God's name to get close to God's reality, you know, to be in constant remembrance of God, and these guys are saying zikr, not realizing who's the author of existence. Everything in existence, like, in Islam, there's micro sins and there's macro sins, but there's also micro deeds and macro deeds. Okay, so I see it in the same way. Like major sins, minor sins, major sins. Minor deeds, major deeds, right? So to me, like somebody, let's say, could not be raised in Muslim culture, could not be Muslim at all, right? And let's say, I'm sorry to use this metaphor, but let's say they're having, intercourse outside of marriage, and mid intercourse, they see that the person, and they suddenly see that it's all God. For a moment, it's like everything from what's moving them to who's moving to everything in the moment. And for a moment, the person realizes that it's the system moving, not just me moving. I'm limiting myself to the experience of just me moving. And that's the issue. Because we've limited ourselves to the experience of us moving, it's become very difficult to connect, because connection means the emergence of a third reality. To me, I see human bodies, I see human minds, and the reason I shared that metaphor is because in having sex outside of marriage Islamically is seen as an impure act, but seeing everything as God's will is a very high, is a holy act. And so if somebody in the middle of, let's say, an impure act, and they don't even know it's impure, but they're in the middle of it, right? But they suddenly see the purity of the divine, they see God's existence, or they see a woman that they see, like, how has God created an existence so beautiful? Or why has my eyes have been created to witness such beauty, or something like that? You know what I mean? And so the point of it is that it doesn't matter, even in the wrong, you can notice the right. Even doing something right, and you can notice the wrong. But it doesn't matter to me. The advanced option means, what would the most advanced version of me do? What would the most advanced version of me be? What would the most advanced version of my species do and be? What would the most advanced state of being be? And as someone obsessed, and like, as someone who loves the idea of the advanced civilization, like, you don't understand, if I get old in this world, I'm just gonna be like, designing like cities, sky cities, just constantly being realizing that we have taken our inner realms for granted because they made us think the outer realms only has value. All of you have hidden value. You have values that none of us can know until you pick up until the signal arrives for you. There is no, yo, man, what's my purpose in life? We're all antennas, and it's the signals you receive and the greatest values you move towards. From the moment you log into this reality, the value proposition arrives. You open your eyes and you see manifestation. You could be shy, but the world isn't. It will show you what it is. And then over time, you learn to show the world what you are. But you come to realize what everything is has a mysterious factor. Because, yes, existence is there's like a separated view on existence where the content of the conscious awareness is separated. That's a tree, that's a car, that's a branch, that's a window, that's a, I don't know, street or whatever. Like, that's a building. Like, so on some level, the brain, like, I'm accessing a moment of awareness. My brain is separating the content, but I am noticing on an existential level, it's equal. I cannot go to someone and be like, yo, man, I'm existing more than you. No such thing. We're both existing in existence equally. Existence doesn't judge existence because it's all existing. It's the experience that judgment relates to. Do you understand? So you are living in existential reality. The materialists are trying to keep you to not see anything more than that. Do you know? You're living an experiential reality, which is something that the greatest minds on earth have tried to walk in those uncharted territories. That means I might not have lived too much of an exciting outer life, but I have lived a very exciting inner life. That means all of our minds can visually, you're all visual thinkers. Guys, they proved it. You remember a film way easier than you remember the words in a book. Okay, and you might have a photographic memory, but then you're like, you don't count them. You know, the whole point of it is what vision guides your soul, yo. Like, that should be written on a t-shirt. And you'll find a vision that will call you towards it. The vision my body has found is like a part of me wants to really get into calisthenics at some point. Like, that's a dream. Like, that's my ambition. You know, that's like a physical dream. And of course, a physical dream is to also have kids. So a physical vision, yeah, a vision for my physicality is like, calisthenics and to have kids, you know, and a vision for my mind is to serve the advanced civilization. And I've been born at that exciting time where, for some reason, I've been like this since childhood. I notice things before they happen. I don't know the future. I just know through the moment instantaneously. That means they're like, are you a fortune teller? No. Do you know the future? No. But do you know the moment? Yes. My whole life, a part of me has instantaneously known. I don't know how to explain it. I know, not because there's been an analysis, because how the moment is presenting itself live. Now, it doesn't matter who I am because we're reaching that time where we're all asking, who are we? What are we all doing here? What are we all doing existing in front of each other, in front of our eyes? And what's the point of, how we're standing behind our eyes and where our attention truly is? And how advanced it can be. Sometimes, I don't know if people have seen those shows like Gundam Wing or Evangelion. like those early pioneering archetype of giant robots, like few giant futuristic robots. To me, reality sometimes the whole moment feels like I'm inside a giant robot. Okay, and so it's all about discovering its components, or I'll say it in a different, more relatable way. I feel like I'm inside a system, and through systems thinking, I wonder about the elements in the system. So I'm an element. 8 billion other humans are an element. Everything else I see in civilization are an element. Now I divide these elements. I make them natural elements, unnatural elements. Then I make them divide those elements into dynamic elements, known elements, unknown elements. I should actually start with known and unknown, and then natural, unnatural, and then all the dualities begin from there. Okay, the issue is that they have convinced you that you have to, in every moment of your life, know what you have to be to feel like you're somebody. But guess what? A majority of life is unknown. The ambivalence of it, the ambiguity, the unknownness, the fact that you don't know how other people are living in other parts of the planet, the fact that you don't know all the messed up stuff or all the great stuff that's happening on this planet, and yet you're participating in this event like the whole planet is a concert. We're all jumping up and down, and we're waiting for the host to arrive. Like, what are we here for? To me, for my body, sure, you can give it a locational destiny, but my mind has to reach a sort of completion of knowing. Like, we cannot ignore that we are incomplete, guys. And we have convinced ourselves that love of each other is what completes us, but no, it is the love of the original. That means there's, like, let's say, two different ways. I'm not married yet, but I'm assuming there's two ways to love your wife. Okay, one, you love her for who she is, or you love her because you love the moment of being. That means you have love for the power that has allowed for the power of the world, to allow for a power of the self, to allow for, in some sense, a divine angel to complement you in human form. I'm telling you, they don't teach context shifting, they just teach concept shifting. And most human beings live their life thinking they have to be a fixed concept, and they're in a fixed concept context of a world situation. So fixed self in a fixed world. Now what do we do? Rather than realizing it's an unknown dynamism, it's an unknown verb. You think you're listening to, like, some dude born in 91, whose real name is Amin, and Amin, you know, and his online alias is Mr. Within, and he's living in a planet that named everything, you know but you think you're listening to, like, a concept right now. I'm telling you, all of us are an unknown life force. I am a force that my mind is how I enter a field, and then I enter manifestation. So the soul, and the clue is in the divine, through the divine lens, theological clue is that God commanded man to say the divine names. It's a clue that we have cosmic awareness. So we enter a specific position after a part of us, which Carl Jung called the unconscious, having an awareness to everything. Do you understand? So the amnesia is intentional, and I don't know how to say it, kind of like the programming before this life, or how you're commanded, is also intentional, right? Some beings reach a certain state of awareness on this planet that their religious life is them trying to figure out that when God created their soul, in theology, God creates by commanding. God is an absolute being. It's an unconditional absolute being. It commands it into existence. That means there is no chicken or egg or logical explanation. It's instantaneously the condition has arose. We're in a commanded world. Okay, we're in an unknown commanded world, and a greater unknown agency than ourselves, a greater unknown force than ourselves is administering the whole reality. And just like how planets orbit the sun, there is an intelligence in this planet that is like the sun, right? And you don't realize it. Christians see it through Christ, Muslims in the Holy Quran. I asked for God. I was like, God, give me a sign. I prayed. I opened the Quran. God said, all the signs are there. It is you who don't see. That means truth is in the room. It is the falseness that is unnecessarily being identified with. So, just like how suddenly something important enters the room, this is what it feels like to be religious. The most important power, think of it this way, as I'm someone who wants to build an advanced civilization and wants to awaken the advancing, bring forth the advanced humanity. So, the only way that it's possible to build the most advanced civilization is to access it needs the most advanced power. So God can only build the most advanced civilization. Humans can build civilizations that are conditionally adaptable to them, but we don't have that higher agency awareness to know what else we need to prepare for beyond the meaning and idea of ourselves. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. Oh my God, there's a research component. So, guys, there's something for me to read for you. So we're gonna go to the research component. Pretty much, I wrote this title and I just wrote it in ChatGPT 5.2, and I'm like, "Yo, man, give me an academic review and give me the most advanced view." This is the research, so we're seeing what other ideas there are other than what I've shared. So it says, one, the academic review. Why would the world need us? From an academic perspective, the idea that an individual might exist because, in quotations, the world needs them can be examined through systems theory, evolutionary biology, sociology, and philosophy of agency. Modern science no longer views humans as isolated entities, but as nodes within complex adaptive systems. In such systems, every agent, biological, cognitive, or social, plays a role in maintaining, transforming, or destabilizing the larger structure. Evolutionary theory suggests that variation is not accidental excess. It is the engine of adaptation. Unique traits, perspectives, and capacities emerge because environments are unstable and require continual problem solving. From this view, individuals exist not merely to survive, but to introduce novel responses to changing conditions. A world facing uncertainty, technological disruption, ecological instability, social fragmentation requires differentiated human capacities to remain viable. Sociology reinforces this role theory. Societies persist by distributing functions across individuals. Excuse me, I'm going to read that again. Sociology reinforces this through role theory. Societies persist by distributing functions across individuals. Some stabilize norms, others challenge them. Some preserve meaning, others innovate it. Deviance, creativity, and nonconformity, often misunderstood as misalignment, are in fact essential mechanisms for systemic renewal. That means, guys, I'm just on a tangent here. That kid drawing graffiti on a wall for no reason and like annoying, like, I don't know, people, like that's necessary for civilizational advancement because that kid's playing a role that is necessary in civilization. So it says, historically, social progress has depended on individuals. So I'll read that again. Read that again. Deviance, creativity, nonconformity, often misunderstood as misalignment, are in fact essential mechanisms for systemic renewal. Historically, social progress has depended on individuals who perceive the world differently than the majority at their time. So, guys, I'm reading this, right? Philosophically, existential and pragmatist traditions argue that meaning is not preassigned but enacted. The world, in quotations, needs individuals insofar as meaning, values, and ethical direction must be continually regenerated. What an incredible sentence. Yeah. So even this system wherein needs us, if it needs a regenerating conscious agency. Without agents capable of reflection, critique, and responsibility, systems collapse into automation without wisdom. Thus, academically speaking, the world does not need people in general in a vague sense. It needs specific human differences emerging at precise moments to solve problems that could not be solved before. Exactly, guys. From this view, the individual is not accidental, they are contextually necessary. So, academically, there's an argument for the contextual necessity of the human being for in order for the system of that's defining the human to advance. Then we go to the second one. The most advanced view. Could you be here because the world needs your world? Now we move beyond conventional frameworks. The most advanced view begins with a radical premise. The world is not a single unified reality. So, guys, this is the most advanced view I'm reading. So it says now we move beyond conventional frameworks. The most advanced view begins with a radical premise. The world is not single, unified reality. It is a layered field of perspectives, each incomplete on its own. Reality at its deepest level is not merely physical or social, but interpretive. What advances or stagnates civilization is not resources or technology, but the quality of worlds humans, excuse me, but the quality of worlds humans generate within themselves. Wouldn't it exactly, guys? The quality of the life you're living behind your eyes suggests the quality of how advanced our civilization is. All of you need to live in more advanced ways in your inner realms. Come on, that's what's up. That's what the future generations are like, guys. Can you guys all just get real and start living in your most advanced visions of reality? Let us not, specialize greatness. They're like, guys, we want this. It's a great species. Everybody relax and do the most advanced thing they can, with consciousness of the greatness of the human legacy and all, human odyssey. Anyways, I want to keep reading. So it says, what advances or stagnates civilization is not resources or technology, but the quality of worlds humans generate within themselves. If you're imagining me like shouting at a Himalayan yogi meditating in a cave, like advanced civilization, bro, advanced civilization, bro, you're exactly right. I would do that. No, I'm kidding. I would probably draw an arrow in front of the guy, like pointing to outside of the cave, and I'm gonna sit at beside the cave wall, and wait for this guy, to step out of samadhi, and tell him that you have advanced behind your eyes enough. It is now to advance the life in front of our eyes. Do you know how many ways, with at what speeds I've done donuts and flying cars in my inner realms in the future, even diagonally? Anyways, I want to keep reading this, guys. I keep going to distracted by the future, which is necessary. It's the best distraction. Um, but also behind that distraction, the most important destination. So, anyways, I'm going to keep reading. Each human does not simply inhabit the world, they instantiate a world, which means represent as or by an instance. So, they instantiate a world. In quotations, world in this sense is a coherent internal reality, a way of perceiving meaning. suffering, time, responsibility, and possibility. Most humans inherit their world unconsciously. A few are forced by sensitivity, intelligence, or rupture to construct one consciously. Advanced civilizations do not evolve by consensus, they evolve when previously unrepresented internal worlds enter collective reality. When a new way of seeing existence becomes articulable, transmissible, and stabilizing, it upgrades the shared human operating system. From this perspective, you're not here merely to function. You're here because a certain configuration of perception could only emerge through you. The world needs your compliance, but your lens. Not your productivity, but your interpretive architecture. Why does this matter now? Because humanity is approaching a threshold where old internal worlds, tribalism, dominance, ego centered meaning, are no longer sufficient to govern planetary scale power. Okay, let me read that again. Because humanity is approaching a threshold where old internal worlds, tribalism, dominance, ego centered meaning, are no longer sufficient to govern planetary scaled power. So true and reasonable. Like, exactly. Like, our inner realms need to update. Like, that's why I'm feeling being a futurist on Earth is like, it feels like there isn't that many. How many people the value of their self is just based on the past to the present? Have you ever thought about what your value is from the present to the future? Anyways, guys, I'm going to keep reading. It says technology has outpaced wisdom. Intelligence has outgrown in integration. The crisis is not external. It is world deficit. In such moments, individuals emerge whose primary role is not to lead, conquer, or optimize, but to host new coherence, to carry a world in which fear is metabolized. What a sentence. To carry a world in which fear is metabolized into clarity, in which meaning is not borrowed but generated, in which the self is understood as a steward rather than an owner. Yeah, you're a guardian of existence, yo. That's why you notice more than anything else compared to all the species here. You may feel, so I'm going to keep reading. It says, you may feel alienated, not because you don't belong, but because your world has not yet been installed into the collective. The most advanced possibility is this: you're not here to fit into the world. You're here because the world cannot complete itself without the world you carry. Exactly. Exactly. All of you are required. There's a reason existence has brought you into existence. Okay, there's a reason a power beyond existence is organizing all of existence. There's a reason we have limited access to being aware of how it's all being organized, but we can self simulate meaning and try to, through greater archetypes, envision the greater nature to the field of how ideas even arise. Because if you want to really know the truth, the ideas don't arise, they're already there in a field. You just have become an antenna that can notice it. So I'm going to keep reading, guys. It says the most advanced possibility is this: you're not here to fit into the world. You're here because the world cannot complete itself without the world you carry. And civilization advances not when everyone agrees, but when the right internal worlds arrive at the right moment in history. Well said. That's the arrival of the advanced humanity. And I have this feeling like me and all the advanced communicators of the modern era are currently alive. We are responsible for preparing the arrival of the advanced humanity. That means some very important, the system admin, some great events are going to happen here. We have to pursue the furthest greatness so the future generations, the advanced humanity, can go even further. We're living for how advanced all of us can be, pretty much. Now, I came to AI and I said, so I need a list of reasons for the arguments for and against in the most advanced list, like for this. AI says arguments for reasons the world could need, in quotations, your world. One, complex systems require diversity of internal models. Advanced systems theory shows that complex adaptive systems fail when internal models converge too tightly. Cognitive diversity is not optimal, it is a survival requirement. Unique perceptual worlds expand the system solution space when facing novel threats. Two, evolution selects for difference under instability. Periods of stability reward conformity. So two, evolution selects for difference under instability. Periods of stability reward conformity. Periods of disruption reward deviation. The emergence of rare psychological configurations during turbulent epochs suggests functional necessity, not accident. Three, civilizational advancement occurs via minority cognition. Historically, transformative shifts originate from the individuals whose internal world initially appears maladaptive to the present order, but adaptive to the next one. Yeah, I kind of feel this. So what does this mean? That means the minority has a different view than the majority. The minority will see the majority in ways the majority cannot see itself. It might be able to envision realities that are to come or are that the current reality is not aware of. That means we've reached that time, folks, in history where it's not about how aware is the human, how aware is the human species. You must care, love, and live for the greatest advancement of your species now. This is being broadcast. You're hearing it. It means care for yourself, care for others, but ultimately, we gotta advance this system, yo. It's as simple as that. Okay, four, meaning is not conserved, it must be regenerated. So, guys, it must be regenerated, meaning meaning degrades across generations without agents capable of resynthesizing purpose. Under new conditions, societies lose coherence even while growing materially. Five, the observer shapes the system being observed. From second order cybernetics, systems are altered by the perspectives that describe them. New internal worlds change not only interpretation, but system behavior itself. Yeah, it's kind of like an element in a system changing. Now, guys, there's five more to read. I'm going to go for arguments against. And I'm going to read all the arguments against first and then finish with the arguments for. So there's five left for the arguments for. Now the arguments against. Reasons the world does not need, in quotations, your world. One, natural selection does not imply purpose. Evolution produces excess variation. Most difference has no systemic necessity. Existence does not guarantee functional relevance. Two, survivorship bias distorts historical narratives. We remember impactful individuals and forget the millions whose internal worlds never mattered to collective outcomes. Yep, I can totally understand that. Systems absorb individuals without requiring them. Large scale systems persist regardless of individual uniqueness. No single internal world is indispensable. Four, human meaning is post dash hoc. I've never post hoc HOC. So post dash HOC, post hoc narrative construction. I have no clue what this means. What post hoc means occurring or done after the event, especially with the reference to the fallacious assumption that the occurrence in question has a logical relationship with the event it follows. What the a post hoc justification for the changes. So okay, it's post hoc done after an event. Okay. Human meaning is post hoc narrative construction. Okay, yeah. Of course, it's saying what I'm saying. Purpose is often retroactively assigned to justify existence rather than discovered as a casual truth. Five, most internal worlds remain private and inert. A perspective that is not transmitted, scaled, or embodied in action has no systemic effect. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. That means some people are living in ways behind their eyes that no one other them and God knows, and they just die and nobody ever knew. Right? So there is a mass majority of reality just in the there is an unconscious to the species. The future generations are like the subconscious of the species. You know, it says six. Belief in necessity can inflate ego and delusion. The idea that in quotation the world needs me risks narcissistic over identification historically linked to harm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we don't want to. I don't want to say like, oh my God, the world needs you. You got to become a dictator that rules everything and sets everything straight. Like, I don't mean that. Like, I don't mean like don't go that way. I'm just saying that we need to advance, wonder about the most advanced state of the species. Seven, civilizations evolve primarily through material forces, technology, energy flows, and ecological constraints shape history more reliably than individual psychology. Okay, that's such a next level argument that there's bigger things influencing how the world changes than us existing in it. Like, that's a very interesting arguments. I don't know what to do with it now, though. Anyways, go to the next one. Eight, randomness explains diversity. I mean, what does it say? Technology, energy flows, and ecological energy. Yeah, I mean, it's saying external reality has a greater influence on everything than internal reality. Yeah, but internal reality brings in a new form that external reality couldn't fathom. So I don't know. It's very I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. Eight, randomness explains diversity without teleology. Teleology, if I remember correctly, is the study of purpose, right? Let's look it up. The explanation of phenomena in terms of the purpose they serve rather than of the cause by which they arise. Yeah, yeah, okay. So something's teleological when it's prioritizing purpose. Okay, it's purpose over it's why it was caused. You know, It says statistical emergence explains psychological variance without invoking need, destiny, or purpose. Okay. Nine, meaning can emerge without individual intention. Systems often self-organize coherence independently of conscious contributors. Okay, that's I mean, yeah, I understand. Like, that's what the world was doing before we got here. So it's like if we can't manage ourselves, the world knows how to manage itself. But we as conscious beings are responsible now for to manage the awareness we have access to that other species don't, for example. Anyways, nine, meaning can emerge without individual intention. Systems often self-organize, coherence independent. No, I read this. 10, not all difference is adaptive. Some internal worlds are misaligned, dysfunctional, or destructive without contributing advancement. Yeah. And now the five arguments left for why the world could need our world. Six, unrepresented perspectives create systemic blind spots. Every civilization collapses partly due to what it fails to perceive. What a sentence. What a sentence. I gotta read it again. Every civilization collapses partly due to what it fails to perceive. Individuals who perceive what others cannot are functionally necessary, even if socially uncomfortable. Seven, ethical evolution depends on internal moral architectures. Laws lag behind consciousness. Ethical progress depends on individuals whose internal worlds operate at higher integrative levels before institutions can encode them. Eight, psychological outliers stabilize long term trajectories. Short term systems reward efficiency, long term systems require wisdom. Outliers often serve as temporal bridges between present capacity and future necessity. Nine, the universe expresses itself through localized coherence. From a cosmological philosophical view, complexity appears to generate self reflective nodes capable of stabilizing order at increasing scales. 10. Civilization advances by internal world exploration. Every major worldview, scientific, ethical, spiritual, began as a private internal reality before becoming collective infrastructure. Yeah, that's a very incredible point. That where are ideas born behind the eyes, which is behind the scenes of the conscious external reality, the inner conscious reality. Fascinating. So it gives a synthesis. It says the most advanced synthesis. This is the position worth defending. The world does not need every individual, but it requires enough individuals carrying unaligned internal worlds for adaptation, meaning renewal and ethical evolution to remain possible. In other words, no one is guaranteed necessity. Some differences become necessary only when conditions align. In quotations, needed world is not proven by existence, but by integration, transmission, and timing. The question is not in quotations, does the world need me? The real question is, in quotations, does the world need a world like the one I carry, and am I capable of translating it into reality? Guys, I just got schooled by AI. Exactly. That second sentence, does the world need a world like the one I carry, and I am capable of translating it into reality? And let me tell you guys, if you're human, if you have a world that no one else has and you're carrying it and you're living through that behind your eyes, why do you think it exists then? Why do you think we have mouths and ears and social media and cyberspace and channels of communication? It's to reach the most advanced in communication in anything we do. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. I hope this lecture was interesting. Share, subscribe, follow. Only if you feel called towards caring for, like, if you care for the advancement of humanity, stay tuned, because that's the greatest game externally. In front of my eyes, the greatest game is to build an advanced civilization. Behind my eyes is to find the most advanced power that powers the most advanced civilization. So I know that the advanced civilization is not built by a human. It can be inspired by an individual human architect, but it's not built by a human. It is the command of the higher realms. So it's about getting civilization worthy to experience its most advancement after it has been looping in non advance. So wonder about this, folks, and could you be here because the world needs your world? And why would the world need us? Answer, there's a comment section for a reason, and I'm actually interested to know what you guys think. So write in the comment, try to answer the questions of the title. You know, the title in question, literally. Thank you for listening. God knows, the system admin truly knows the original moment. And as a simulated being that can notice that the humans have a system admin privilege, um, the original reality means our heart knows what our mind should, our mind knows what our body can. And the depth of the vision is that you align the context. That means if somebody, if, like, let's say a bunch of extraterrestrials land and I'm just like walking in the park and, walking my invisible cat and like with a neon glowing leash. Do you know what I mean? Like in the evening and a bunch of aliens land down, do you know? And they ask me, "Who are you?" Do you know? And it's an intimidating, their intense position. In that moment, if I am forced, I will command that I am a servant of the Lord of worlds. That means I am not human. I am human in the presence of human. But the moment there is God in the room, there's a system admin beyond the world room, I should say. The awareness of God is the room, or the room is God's will. Do you know, this is why manifestation cannot equate the system admin? This is why this is the biggest truth. This is why, how do I say it? What Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, started, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, concluded. The reason they consider Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to be the seal of prophets is because there is nothing greater to point to. That was the final message. The final message was that truth is beyond the conditions of the world. So anytime you see a Muslim, they are not praying to a God that they can give you a photograph to show, or they are pointing to the unconditional. What do you understand what I mean when I say original being? That means before existence existed, the awareness to what could exist existed. That means it, science can try to go from bottom up, from the lower power, try to comprehend the higher power, but it's going to fail to understand it. It started from the higher power, and the lower power is the consequence. So we are, I shouldn't say we are an effect. So right now, it took me a while, but I finally realized like it makes sense. That to me, if somebody says, "Hey man, is this world real?" and I'll be like, and then they'll be like, "Okay, is this world unreal?" I'll be like, "Yep." They're like, "Is it simulated?" I'll be like, "Yep." And the person's gonna be like, "What do you mean? Are me and you like simulated right now?" And I'll be like, "Not only are our bodies simulated, not only are the neural activity happening in our brain, the brain activity being simulated, not only our attention being simulated and our dialogue and just our consciousness being simulated, the planet and the world and all of it is simulated." And it's like it's in the alignment, it's like simulations alive have aligned for a soul to notice the unknown and freak out. They're like, why? They're like, yo, man, I don't know. Like, God truly knows, and we have faith in God. But honestly, you're telling me I've opened my eyes, not just the planets have aligned, all the simulations of manifestation have aligned for me to realize I'm a simulation too. What is the point of that? The point of being conscious of your incompleteness as a being is to one, wonder how it will be complete, and then how is it truly incomplete, and ask yourself, what is the point of life, not the point of your life. Hear me out. I'm saying as an unknown life force, wondering about what is the point of life. So the point of my life is based on my ego, my identity, my sense of self, and whatever character in a story I consider myself to be now, right? And but the sense of for when you like a purpose just for life. Do you know why purpose is so important, guys? When I was younger, again, I keep pointing to it. I was shy, and because I was shy, I didn't even have the courage to even wonder about purpose. But now I have become someone. I wonder about the purpose of existence, every aspect of it, every manifest layer of it. The world cannot hide from me. I've seen it. I've noticed it. You know, that means this is why I don't consider myself, only God knows what's truly in our heart. Only God knows the true capacity of what we're aware of and what we can see. But for me personally, let me explain it like this. Imagine I'm just this observant soul, okay? Don't even characterize me yet. I've opened my eyes and everything has been a communication. In other words, what has existence? It's like, what is my sense of self? Like, what is the world presenting me as a sense of self in it prove? What is the point? Like, if Sherlock Holmes, you know, was here, right? Like, what would I ask Sherlock Holmes? And Sherlock Holmes would be like, buddy, I should be asking you questions. You know, guys, what if I make a comic series of Mr. Within and Sherlock Holmes with AI? Would people want to see that? What if I make a Mr. Within comic series? Would people be interested in that? The viewers can say something if they have a soul. It's all good, guys. It's all good. We have to wonder about the soul of our species. Do you know what it means? Like, you could take it personally, you could also take it impersonally. For me, it's a commanded universe, meaning it has a commander. My whole life, as the type of man I have been, I have sought this commander. And my relationship with this force has been of realizing how less I am. What does that mean? That means the unconditional is the possibility of any condition. The conditional is just limited to its conditional design. The clues of this reality is that it's too designed and it's time constrained for us. It's limited and it's too big and you can't see its edges, and we didn't create it. The clues are all there. The truth of reality is there. It's time to wonder about who we really are beyond the veil of ignorance. Thank you for listening. The system admin knows best. Islam says go directly to the system admin. Um, Christianity says go directly to the system admin that manifested as an individual in the system. Buddhism tells you notice how the emptiness again inside the system is the same as the outside. And there's so many different moderators. If you're a Hindu, there's so many different mods, and you're like praying to these mods. You have statues. You pour milk on Hanuman. It's still so. There's so many different traditions alive in the human system, but the advanced human is not identifying with culture. To identify with culture is like being a bird on a branch. To be an advanced human being is like that eagle that flew in the sky, that bird that flew in the sky and saw the whole forest. So there will be no judgment on a specific way anymore. We're valuing the human experience. That means when there's first responders, like they're conscious of this probably, right? But that means, like, this is how I've envisioned it. For example, you know how there's police, right? Or ambulance, like paramedics? They're going to have a psychologist, not a psychologist. They're going to have in the far future in my sci fi, I've written an advanced communicator. And the advanced communicator is going to be another human witness there that is going to make sure the conduct is appropriate. And if there's language barriers and they're going to be a multilingual person, do you know, someone who's expert in de escalating and administering realities, right? Because we have to care for the lives of people behind their eyes. You're cruel when you forget people are living behind their eyes, and sometimes the way they're living, they value something. For example, imagine a little kid building a house of cards, right? And then somebody coming and breaking it, do you know, for no reason, right? And it's like some part of that being in some sense doesn't understand why and then continues. I don't know. The human mind is very fascinating. All of it is very fascinating, and this fascination, I hope the whole species discovers it. It's always been there. The mysteries of reality. It's more unknown than known, and everybody deserves an Oscar because we have acted our way so far in manifestation, but now comes the era of the true humanity. The true humanity means it's truth conscious, means it's God conscious, means that noobs are experiencing a physical world here. The pros realize there's a higher power and they align to that higher power. And those of the highest class, they realize it's not form based. So they no longer have a relationship with the shape. Because you can have a relationship with any shape, you become limited to that shape. You know? So the whole point of it is like in a shaped world, shaped beings, special shaped beings, advanced shaped beings called prophets, they came into this shaped world and they were like, yo, truth is beyond shape, right? And that has been the great discovery, okay? That truth is beyond shape. So if there is a world beyond the world, there's an intelligence beyond the intelligence of the world. So the moment there's an unknown intelligence beyond our comprehension, humans are not designed per se to understand the world. They're designed to play a part in the role. They're designed to play a role in the world, in the presence of it all. You have a value that you don't understand. In the same way that I had to come into terms and I was like, wait a minute, right? So if at the end of my life, in the afterlife, the system admin judges me, and I could have thought something was a good deed, it could have been a bad deed, or I thought something was a bad deed, it could have been a good deed, right? And at some point, the system admin, in some sense, like judges me, right? So it means that I could evaluate my own actions, my own life in any way, but it's the evaluation of a higher, more aware, and truer power, right? So it means in this life, we're experiencing, I guess, a domain of free will. We're experiencing the externalization of the nafs in Islamic terms, meaning that we are animated in a conditional reality, and because we're more aware of those conditions than the conditions in themselves, than the just like the conditions are just how the landscape is set up, and we're aware of the landscape. Because we're aware of the landscape, we can navigate through it in different ways, right? Now it's the same when it comes to the nature of your mind. By the way, the mind is contextualizing, and it generates meaning. Anytime people have writer's block is because their context of the world is too fixed. The world they are limited, they have limited their world, therefore they can have limited ideas in that world, you know to me, it's a matter of vision and purpose, and purpose is a calling, and it's like your soul is being called forth. For me, I don't know, I think every person's soul gets called forth towards something. Some people, like Mother Teresa's soul, got called forth towards going and helping children in Calcutta, who were like starving. Do you know what I mean? Like the soul of Elon Musk is being called forth to go and try to make this planet interstellar, multiplanetary, our species, right? For example, my calling is I've discovered the idea of the advanced civilization, and my visions on how advanced civilizations can look like. It's like that's my dedication to reality. People have different callings. For me, my soul's calling is I know that there is a higher justifying power. Do you know what that means? That means again the employee energy analogy arises. So if an employee has an issue with the manager, the higher up owner comes and fixes it. Do you know? Right? If the in some sense, or if the manager should be capable of fixing it, but if the manager is like, I don't know, out of bounds, or I don't know, something, I'm saying it's the relationship of created being with the true presence of the original moment of being. You see, the clue is God has never left the room. That's the clue. Truth has always been where it was. It's just us who appear in the room and then we leave the room. And then during the room, we can notice what was in the room, right? And in Islam, forgot to finish this idea, guys. So if you ask a Buddhist, like, yo, like a Buddhist can walk up to a Muslim, let's say a Buddhist and a Muslim were having a conversation at a bus stop, right? And the Buddhist is like, hey man, you're Muslim, so do you believe in past lives, right? And the Buddhist is like, I believe, like, you don't know, man. I remember like I don't know, like who I was like 7 lifetimes ago, and why I deserve this life now, right? And the Muslim would look at the guy and be like, okay, first of all, I don't have that view, right? And the Muslim would say, I don't believe in a past life in this world, and I also don't believe in karma. I believe in God's judgment, right? I believe a higher being positions you where you are, not just based on what you do. What you do can suggest why the higher being positions you, you know? And then the Muslim would say, I don't believe in past lives. This is one life here from the beginning to the end. However, in Islam, there is this view that there is a, before souls were born in the womb, they were in this realm called the Alam al Arwa. Okay, and so Alam al Arwa translates from Arabic to the world of souls, and it was a world where, and in Arabic, there's other realities as other worlds. For example, Alam al Malakut, the world of angels. Do you know? Alam al Mithal, I guess the world of forms. Do you know? Higher forms or something. And so Alam al Arwa suggests that before this life, souls were in they all souls were in this world, the Alam al Arwa, and all souls had a rank. And when they and souls of the same rank knew each other, and souls of different rank could never get along. You know, and so being born in the world is like the system admin is putting different ranked officers of souls, so different ranked solar officers, on the planet. In the holy book in Islam, it's referred to as Khalifa, which means ambassadors of the higher will. So we're not here to just be humans to ourselves. We're here to also show the lower realities, the relationship of the lower reality with the higher reality. Because an answer to why God created man is so that man can need God. God knows all views. God is a completed being. We are an incompleted being. This completed being created these incompleted beings to see in an incomplete world, can they notice the completed force that moves it all. The moment humanity realizes this completed force, the advanced civilization has already happened. In the same way that ideas have already happened, and you might not believe it, genius is waiting for its antenna. That means you need to receive the signal that there is something, and the only thing that's motivated me in this life was anything that I considered important. And there is nothing, like it's like I'm some dude like everybody else living a normal life, and in the middle of this normal life I've heard the callings, the roars of the advanced civilization. I'm like some dude living a normal life, and suddenly my mind is getting glimpses and visions of how advanced civilization can be, how advanced the future generations will be, in how many ways the future generations will look at us and see our blind spots and wonder how many of us went further beyond them. They're going to wonder about what we really cared about, what we really saw, what it really meant, why we're all manifest in the same room as physical, non fictional form at the same time as a fictional, a non-physical field of let's say a current of movement in a field of being. It's like it's fictional and non-fictional. It's full and empty. It's full of intelligence and empty of intelligence at the same time. It's smart and stupid at the same time. It's right and wrong at the same time. You know what I mean? These are just variables to the dualistic nature of perception. The duality is the world that the singularity tries to live in, right? So you're like this. If Earth was a video game, you're like this individual character. You find yourself in a dualistic world. However, this world is infinite, and so let's say you find yourself perceiving it dualistically, right? So you're looking at things and trying to, as a singular being, dualistically comprehend its value in a spectrum of possibilities and probabilities. Yet at the same time, what the ontology of reality could surpass the human idea, yo. It could be far beyond what we think and what we believe. Anyways, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, the most advanced.